likes the broad bean? I certainly do. But if you're like me and you think you've absolutely missed the boat because everywhere you look you've got people who've got lovely little broad bean seedlings popping out of pots that they have looked after since late autumn right through to February, you might be having a mild panic by now, because we're now into April and it's time now. If you haven't done that so far, you still could. You could still pop them into modules, look after them and sow them out after the last frost. But if you're anything like me, you're just going to want to bung them in, cross your fingers and see what happens, because it is not too late to sow them outside. So what I'm going to do today is get mine sown, and I'm going to show you a few little tips and tricks along the way to ensure that we all enjoy a bountiful broad bean crop. Okay, I think one of the things we all like about beans is that once you've grown a particular bean or pea, any of the legumes really, they are so easy to collect the seed from. But one of the ways to check whether your seed is still viable the next year is this simple test of popping a bowl full of water. I've probably put too much in there, haven't I? See it come over the edge in a minute. And popping your seeds inside. One stuck in there. Okay, oh, another one stuck in there. It's the magic bean packet. There we go. So these are Bunyard's Exhibition broad beans. And as you can see, I mean, obviously I think if you had a deeper thing the better, but you can see that none of those are floating at all. That one looks like it might be about to, but no. So I know that those seeds are viable. So if you've saved your seeds from the previous year and you're a little bit worried about whether you can still use them or not, just do the water test and see if they sink or swim. If they sink, you can plant them. If they swim, they're out. Okay, I know the way that I am doing my bed, I'm not doing double rows. If you were doing a couple of double rows, you would want to leave a path in between, but I'm just doing single rows. So I'm 1, 2, 3, and then I've got enough for 4 rows in there. And I want each row to be approximately 9 inches apart. So I'm going to work that out using the magic of the ever useful bamboo canes, and let's just hope they're straight. Right, I'm going to make my first one there, so it's a few inches in from the side. Of course, there we are, it's got that there. Then move that across. Yeah, I can see that one needs to be about there. That one needs to be about there. But what I want to do now is draw some lines. So I want to draw a little, what we call a drill. And the reason I'm doing the drill, rather than planting the seeds individually, I want to get it a couple of inches deep, is because I want to water this before I put the seeds in. So let's just make 4 nice little, probably not very even drills. You can see here I've upgraded to a pointy trowel just because it's cutting a little bit more out of the surface for me than the dodgy stick. So I can get the depth that much easier. Okay, there we go. 4 reasonably straight furrows, but there's one more thing we need to do before we pop in our bean seeds. And that is to give these furrows a good old water. It's the same with anything that you're going to plant direct outside, because you want the seed itself, or even the plant, to go looking for the water and to go sending its roots down rather than up above all the time. There we go. Right, and as that soil is sinking itself down nicely, oh, I need that, try not to stand in the furrows, there we go. You can, I've seen some beautiful measuring sticks that you can get that you can just mark out. I know it just sounds like a ruler, but mark out your major measurements. So these are 9 inches, very often you see them at 12 inches. They're just really nice things to make out of old bits of wood. Obviously we're doing the shed at the minute, so I've got a scratchy old bit of wood, but it's just as good. While that is soaking in, I'm just going to do, oh, the slugs, sorry. There was a robin here a second ago. Let's put them over there for him. A little bit of gardening maths, because I know that I've got 4 furrows, and what I'm going to need to do is just see how many beans that is per furrow. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'll speed this bit up. I've lost count. Right, 52, so that's 13 in each row. Lucky for some. Okay, even though I've measured seemingly straight rows, what I'm going to do now is put them in what we call a staggered row, and all that means I'm going to start, I don't quite know which bit of this you can see, but say for example I put one there. Let's have a little look at this. I've got the next 2 9 inches, oh, which bits? That's it, the next 2 9 inches are marked off. One there, I'm pressing them down as well because I'm aware it's quite shallow. One there, and then all I do is slide that along, and I've got my spacing all nice and worked out for me. So I'll put that to there. All that means is, so I've got one, if I put it on there for you to see, one there and one there. On the next row, I'm going to do like a zigzag. So instead of them being one there right next to it, you probably can't see because there's a furrow there, can you? But believe you me, I'm now putting the next one in the middle like that, and all that means is that it's going to maximise the space around them, because if you have them like that next to each other, you're short on space there and you've got a lot of space there. So if I can remember where I've just put some, we did have potatoes in here a couple of years ago, and if you look at that, it's amazing, isn't it, when you've had potatoes in soil, but they're still doing well. Right, okay, let's see where I was up to. I'm going 9 inches in a staggered row, and because the furrow has been previously watered, I'm up to there. It is just a case of moving my measure along and bunging them in. Fab. And of course, before you do anything else, something I am very good at on my channel is you put in, oh, that's in the wrong place, you put in your markers, and you try not to get your months mixed up. It's not March anymore, Jane, it's April. Right, okay, so I now know I've got my 4 lines of bunyards, but there's still one last job to do. Okay, the last thing I want to share with you today is just something that, if it just helps one of you out there, you'll be better off than I was for several years. Because I think as gardeners, you realise the more you get into it, the more there is to know. You know, you can disappear down various rabbit holes, and there are so many different terms out there that change all the time. And one of the terms that I never quite understood or got the hang of, because I wasn't doing it and I didn't really want to know about it, is catch cropping. And all that means, all catch cropping means, is making the most of the space between your longer lived, longer growing crops. So for example, these broad beans are now going to be in here for several months, but I've got all this space in between each row, roughly 9 inches, and I can pop stuff in there that will grow quickly, and I will be able to harvest before the broad beans grow up and start taking the most of the nutrients out of the soil and making the most of the sunlight. And one of the things that goes best, I find, with broad beans is the humble lettuce. Not only is it a nice fast grower, so we will hopefully be picking these lettuces before the broad beans are woo high, but they actually quite like shady conditions, so if the broad beans do start to shade them out a bit, they should still be okay. So I've got all year round good old lettuce. I've got my label, you'll be amazed, it's ready. And all I am going to do, I mean, I could do this with my finger, I could do it with a stick, but my trowel's handy, so I'm just going to do another little drill down to where the broad beans started. I'm not going to do a great big long row because I will, talking about long words that you might not be aware of, I'm sure you will, I will be doing them successionally. Will I be doing them successionally? I'll be doing them once this row's starting to come up, then I'll start planting along there. So we should have them coming up at different phases at different times. But the one thing I've got to be really careful of with lettuce seed is they are absolutely tiny. There isn't much of a breeze, but there's enough of a breeze to take them over next door's hedge. Okay, so all I'm going to do, where's the end of my line? Oh no, I've got a handful of seeds. I'm going to pop my little label at the end of my line. There we go. And I'm very, very thinly sprinkle these. I don't really want to be thinning them out, although you know what? It's not a problem. It's not like when you thin out carrots, you're attracting the carrot root fly. It's nothing like that. It might just be going along and pulling the odd bits up and actually giving them to the chickens. That's it. That's all there is to it. So we are now, instead of trying to thinly sow them, getting them back in the packet's a different matter. Oh well, we've got surprise letters over there as well. So these, I now not just have broad beans grown in this bed, but I have got a lovely, hopefully, crop of lettuce as well. So hopefully what I've done there is give you the confidence to know that just because you are surrounded by images of people's absolutely beautiful broad bean plants, it is not too late for you to get out there and do some direct sowing yourself. People are not going to put on social media a patch of soil, she says, sitting in front of a big patch of soil. They are going to be wanting to share their successes, but it isn't too late, and it's all too easy to worry when we see how far everyone else is getting on, that we are a bit behind. We're not behind, it's still early in the season. So hopefully I've given you some tips, but most of all, I hope I've given you a little bit of confidence and a little bit of a boost to get out there and plant some yourself. Okay, see you again soon.